Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Duffy Duck here once again and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Let's Play of Kirby Superstar, aka Kirby's Fun Pack for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom. So last time we actually did fully completely done with the garden area, in addition to actually beat the likes of the Wham Bam Rock. In addition to that though, we also collect ourselves all 60 of those treasures in a Great Cave Offensive, along with the grand total of 9,999,990,000 gold or something like that. So even end up that, despite the fact that I've already got 2 game overs in this one game alone, but that wasn't until when we get to later on though, on the other hand. So, speaking of source stories, that today for this episode is the fact that we're going to be moving on into the 5th game of the bunch, and that is the forms of Revenge of Meta Knight. Can't wait to see how this will turn out in that particular game itself. In fact, this might actually be kind of similar to how it does it in the other games throughout it though, like Spring Breeze and etc. Save Dreamland, defeat Meta Knight and his giant warship, Halberd. Which is basically, well, we'll get into that eventually. So, as you can tell, we got ourselves 4 difficulty rank stars, just like how it does in the Great Cave Offensive right there. Except a notable difference is, though, is the fact that I'm pretty sure this game will have itself a time limit system, which I could assume that's where it says top time. But even then, though, we'll get into that during right about now. So even then, though, let's get started with Revenge of Meta Knight. But first, let's go ahead and just read through dialogue for the introduction sequence, much like last time. Reactor 1, output normal, adjust the balancer to 0003. Let's rise the anchor. Check anti-gravity plant. 1, 2, 3, okay. Release the sails, sailor level 288. The time has come. The time to show our power. Dreamland's lazy lifestyle will end. I rule all. Oh, I will roll, I should say. So let's get this new game started. And thankfully though, we don't have to deal with this tutorial sequence. Kirby's here. He's heading towards us. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? You'll get in their way. Get rid of him. Sir Meta Knight, what shall we do? Soldiers near the deck. Assume combat mode. So anyways folks, this is Revenge of Meta Knight, much like how it does in Spring Breeze and Dyna Blade, and even Great Cave Offensive, mind you, is that we're still able to actually perform Kirby abilities first off. In addition to that though, typical traditional platforming style of gameplay. So even then though, except the fact that as you can see on the levels gimmick, oh yeah, Kirby's in a rocket valve bevel. Sorry for all the dialogue here. Release heavy lobster, quick, quick. Oh jeez, I wonder what that heavy lobster is all about then, huh? Of course we do have to keep on attacking those Meta Knight slaves after all, ever since, you know, Kirby's adventure, because, you know, Meta Knight was absent in the forms of Kirby's Dreamland 2. Kirby's behind the nozzle, fix him. Prepare to take off, blow Kirby away. Okay, main engine, ignition, take off! So it's just the beginning of this sequence right there, so we can't do anything on that particular heavy lobster fight, so we just have to jump straight in. So even then, Kirby's been blown to the ocean. That was sure close. I'll conquer Dreamland with the Halberd. Our first target, Grape Garden. So yeah, here we go folks, this is the, I would classify for saying the first ever level in Revenge of Meta Knight, which the forms of Grape Garden. Which is kind of reminds me of almost related to Float Islands from the forms of Spring Breeze, except it's all in sunset, instead of like the usual, daylight setting. So even then though, it might be still a beach environment and all that stuff, but even then I don't mind about it too much. So anyways, as you can see right there, among with our health of course, in addition to, well, we still need 3 extra lives to our disposal every time we start off the game. As you can see, the main gimmick of, you know, Revenge of Meta Knight is the forms of the time limit system. As you can see, the time limit itself will actually decreases every time when you actually explore some of these levels throughout. But even then, if what happens if you manage to let the time run out, then what happens is though is that the Halberd will conquer Dreamland, and it's pretty much instant game over, if I can assuming that. But even then, I haven't really discovered for that for myself though, you know. Unless if I was able to actually look up on something on YouTube or actually discover for myself, from not just from this version alone, but also by the forms of Superstar Ultra as well. So even then, I might as well classify for that. So, anyway though, so as far as the actual game itself, it might be a little bit easier compared to how it does it in the forms of the Great Cave Offensive, because we have to constantly have to backtrack for some of these treasures in the Great Cave Offensive. But even then, no, in this particular mode, not so much, because we need to constantly have to continue go on forward. But there are some occasional moments where we have to come across into bottomless pits, or in this case, you know, screen scrolling right there, or auto scrolling sections right there, which I always hate the most. Kinda like how it does it in the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2. But even then, though, that's why it usually has that tradition last time in the Kirby franchise. But I digress though. So yeah, today was actually forms of the 20th of March, so you know what that means, folks. Enjoy your likes if this is now in 2018. Happy 3-year anniversary, or in this case, happy 3rd birthday of Mario Party 10's release, by the forms of the English version. I know Japan already got that during a while back, but even then, for the international version like I was in, happy 3 years of Mario Party 10's release. So even then, that was actually really, pretty good run through for that particular years prior. Although sadly though, the game itself doesn't nearly sell as well compared to how it does it in the past Mario Party's entries by the forms of the old days, but still I can't deny it by that. So anyways folks, here's the first boss in the, although we've already come across into heavy metal, but here's technically the next boss fight in this particular Revenge of Meta Knight. It's Whispy Woods again, kinda like how it does in Spring Breeze. Except the fact that if you think this level was over, well, it turns out we're actually going to be dealing with Twin Woods, which appears to be a new type of boss, because even then, this boss does reminds me of almost related to Double Task boss by the forms of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat as far as the actual boss fight. Kirby is flying back towards us. Main cannons ready. Shall we blast him? Alright, shoot him! And we did not get into the Halberd in time. We got him. He flew to the forest. Good. Will never catch up. Are you sure? Well, I'm pretty much unbeatable, guys, because even then, I'm pretty much top-notch when it comes to Kirby games, so I pretty much know what I'm doing. So here's the next level in this particular game is the forms of just the woods. But I don't know exactly what this entire level is called. But even then, I have to research on that until when I'm able to actually get used to that. So even then, let's go ahead and just climb all the way up to the top. So even then, there would be many moments where you have to deal with a lot of platforming syndrome, just like how it does it in Spring Breeze and, you know, pretty much every single Kirby games in this particular game itself. So anyways, yeah, I was quite impressed about this actually, and speaking of such though, is that I've already noticed right from the start is that Mario Party 9 was now 6 years old, which even then that's been a really long time. And even now, let's just wait until when New Super Mario Bros. 2 will become 6 years old. Although I will classify for saying right now that as far as the actual New Super Mario Bros. Series goes, that I might actually not call them New Super Mario Bros. Series anymore, because I might decide to call the DS installment Super Mario Bros. 5, because in Super Mario World in Japanese release, usually normally calls it Super Mario Bros. 4, because that's what it usually says on the subtitle on top of Super Mario World, which kind of makes them all up for it. And I might call New Super Mario Bros. Wii Super Mario Bros. 6, and New Super Mario Bros. 2 now calls it Super Mario Bros. 7, and also New Super Mario Bros. U, in this case Super Mario Bros. 8. But I really don't know if they're actually going to be bringing into the 9th entry of the forms of the New Super Mario Bros. Series. Although I will classify for saying that I won't count New Super Luigi U, because it's more accurately just New Super Luigi U, and that's all there is to know. But anyways though, we got ourselves these doppelgangers of bonkers right there, so we're gonna have to deal with them both. By the forms of, we need to claim our hammer copy ability, which is always recommendable because of his attack range. It's actually pretty well done. But anyways though, let's go and toss the hammer ability into my companion to transform into bonkers, and then we can able to proceed. Strangely enough, though, is that we pretty much almost nearly towards the end of Kirby Superstar, actually, because after all, we got ourselves this game to deal with first, and after that, we're pretty much moving on into the final main game, and then also the extra game as well, after beating all 6 of those games all in one go. But even then, I will save that for later, because even then, I know some people already know this by this point. But anyways, let's go ahead and just traverse through. So even then, though, it might be pretty tricky sometimes, because again, cheap enemy placement sometimes, like this little snacky enemy right there, which I don't know exactly what these enemies are, because much like how it does it in Sonic games, that I did not normally know every single enemies throughout. So, of course, we do need to dodge the actual lava itself, because obviously damage output is too high if you manage to accidentally touch one. Okay, let's just go ahead and just... Can you go away, please? Stop that! Oh, jeez, I'm gonna die for my very first death on this particular Revenge of Meta Knight game. Okay. Hey, at least we got a sword, though, at least, so let's go ahead and just... You jerk! You jerk! Trying to jump on me like nothing else. That's just really cheap. Luckily, though, there's a shortcut right there if you manage to bypass that particular section right there. So, even then, I don't have to show you guys the actual lava section or anything like that. So, even then, I'm just able to actually just float up, I should say. So, I'm able to actually bypass that part. So, even then, that's a pretty good thing for me. So, anyways, sorry for that little bit of a dialogue for that point, folks, because, you know, there's not much else we can talk for this point. Besides, today was actually, well, also not to mention that, well, usually today was the 20th of March, as I mentioned earlier. Recently, Nintendo just been revealed there's going to be a Nintendo Showcase 2018 Spring. And, as far as I've actually researched up on that, it was pretty disappointing for me, because even then, though, not only does it bring out to, some really cool, remastered incarnations of the previous versions of the actual games themselves, but a lot of time, it doesn't feel a little bit too interesting for my taste, unlike the ones in Nintendo Direct during the likes of the 8th of March. But that's just how I think. Oh, we got Dyna Blade right there. I wonder why she's doing here. Because basically what happens is, though, is the fact that this usually takes place after the events of Dyna Blade game. Because even then, that's the reason why she makes an appearance. And of course, we managed to land onto our Hellbirds just in time. We shot down Dyna Blade. Look, Kirby's reached the deck. Remain calm. Let's come up with a plan. All soldiers, get Kirby now. So yeah, we ended up back in the Hellbirds after we actually just managed to, you know, trying to take off after Dyna Blade gives us a hand. So even then, now we can able to do more things in Hellbirds, basically. So even then, hopefully things can get checked out just as that. So anyways. And again, I do apologize of how the fact with the lack of upload schedule again, because of how the fact that we're gonna have to concentrate on certain things. Plus, not to mention, I was really super busy on supervision of all the forms of you know, other things in general too. But that's just how it is for me, though, as I must admit, though, right away. But anyways, though, because during the likes of the Nintendo Direct, the 8th of March or stuff like that. It does have some pretty interesting informational news. Sure, there are some disappointments here and there, like for instance Luigi's Mansion Remake is on the 3DS, not Nintendo Switch, which even now that makes me feel slightly disappointed. But at least I can still give that a shot. Kirby, gotcha. Now you get a taste of our power. Well, at least I've classified for that. Fight! Did I say that from the forms of the announcement of the forms of the fighting game or something? Or maybe I just made things up. But anyway, enough about this little jibby jabber, so let's go ahead and just keep on, you know, deal out with these little particular Meta Knights, servants right there. Which even then, that way we can able to proceed for the actual Hellbirds, first part right there. Although, to be more accurately, I'm pretty sure we're actually on the left wing or something like that, because I believe that's where it's at. Kirby's gonna reach the deck. Well, it's to me though. Direct him to the front of the twin cannon. Oh, I know what you're trying to do right here. Yeah, I do really like the actual concept of the forms of Revenge of Meta Knight, because this is kind of reminds me of almost related to the Great Cave Offensive, because there's going to be a lot of exploration. And also not to mention though, since the entire treasure system is completely non-existent on this particular portion of it, because, you know, we're going back into the traditional Kirby style of gameplay, just like how it does in the Spring Breeze, and especially Dyna Blade, and all that stuff. And, self-explanatory though, really. So anyways, let's go ahead and just dish out as a lot of enemies as I possibly could, and hop onto the elevators or lifts, so that even then we can able to actually do just as that. Although unfortunately though, we've almost run out of health though, because I'm really expecting to actually hoping to get more health here. Even though I get the feeling it won't be as many health around here though, so yeah, let's just have to deal with these guys now. Oh god, not only do we get ourselves a Puppy Brothers Jr., but also this really dangerous mini-boss, which he did manage to call me on purpose though. So hopefully we'll try that again, but even then hopefully we can actually get ourselves our ninja companion with me, and I probably should be able to take myself a star block with me just to inhale it as a projectile, such as so. So even then that everything else will be checked out there for the most part though, but there are plenty of times where how the fact that this particular mini fight right there, predictably the Puppy Brothers Jr., although he's not too bad honestly, because he behaves exactly like how it does in the previous Kirby games, but the ones with the psychokinesis type of enemy or something like that, well, he can be extremely dangerous if he managed to catch you off guard. But even then, that's the only dangerous enemy you can get, ever since, you know, the Great Cave Offensive. So anyways though, Kirby is getting close to the Twin Cannon, which I am about to be doing right about now. Kirby will torched. Woo-ha-ha-ha-ha. Oh, Kirby will be tortured. Woo-ha-ha-ha-ha. Woo-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. Sorry about that. Anyway, before you start this fight, we're gonna have to get ourselves our maximum tomato, in addition to, beam maybe? Oh, actually I'm probably not gonna use beam, because I'm gonna be using yo-yo, because that way it just gives us some good advantages, like, moving on to the next boss in this particular game. This is Twin Cannon. And basically all you have to do is in this particular fight is very simple. Just stand onto the edge of the actual cannon right there, and then able to keep on attacking it with your forms of the yo-yo itself. Now I highly suggest you able to keep on blocking it, so just in case you would able to deal as many damage onto the actual cannon. So there we go, that's the first part of the forms of the halberd. The main cannon has been destroyed. I see, so we basically went into the main part of it though. Holy cow, what happened? Kirby is heading towards the left wing. Okay, I made that a mistake from earlier ago, so I do apologize for that point, folks. But anyways though, so even then we've gone pretty much almost towards the end of Kirby Superstar pretty much. So even then that hopefully we can guarantee that someone else can able to tackle through Kirby's Dream Land 3 coming up in during the next couple of weeks or so. But even then that can be very interesting to say the least. But anyways, as far as the actual next level in this particular halberd, by the forms of the left wing, all I have to do in this particular point is the fact that we need to keep an eye on the wind currents right there, because the wind currents will just sometimes blows you forward or sometimes blows you back. Depends on what direction you're moving on. So even then, there's not much in here because, you know, it's just wall or the background rather. Excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. But can you can I get off? Thank you. Sometimes it gets really aggravating at one point or another, sometimes for me, because if I was trying to able to move along, but then somehow all of a sudden my companion just seems to hang on to me. So anyway, I digress. So for this particular left wing at the very end, it's very simple. We need to take down this particular white polar bear, for instance, and then once you deal with him, that's it. That's the shortest level on the halberd. Huh. But if you think it was over, but it turns out it wasn't, because there's actually this missing, this mysterious hull. Serious damage to the left wing, approximately 74%. Go! We're gonna lose balance. Lower the sail, increase right wing power. So basically we need to enter this little particular out cove right there. Kirby is moving into the Dutch. What is he trying to do? He is lost? Or is he lost, rather? Wait, I have an idea. Of course we do need to dodge this lava pit right there, so just in case you don't get hit quite a few times. Well, I found it's a little bit too much of a nitpick, much like how it does in the forms of Super Smash Bros. No, I won't classify for saying Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but unlike how it does in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, you can just simply able to actually just, clarify if you're able to actually go down the lifts and stuff like that. At least unlike in a co-op pain, that you're gonna have to deal with this particular moments where, normally if you have yourself a companion with you, he got into our armory, you'll be able to take anything. But anyway, so let's go ahead and just continue forward. In fact, we're gonna have to use our copy ability. Choice is, of course, Plasma, because as you expected for that trick I've just done. Actually, I might as well go for Mirror, actually, because even though I've lost Mirror for quite a few seconds ago. But even though, yeah. Ready? Ready for what? Is this okay, sir? Are you positive about this? Be quiet. This is our only chance. Don't fail again. Release Heavy Lobster. Wait, what? Oh, it's the exact same boss fight that we've already come across into at the very beginning, but except the fact that he's now pretty much chasing you. See, Fernando, you have to be fast here. Hehehehe. Get Kirby. Oh no, our battleship is being destroyed. Good thing for me, though. That's not important now. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk over for this particular dialogue for this point, folks, because even then, I really do like the actual, premise of the forms of text box, voice acting I've managed to dump from before. But anyways, folks, here's the actual next boss fight. We're gonna be having a rematch against with Heavy, Lobster, much like how it does in the very beginning. Except we can now able to fight him in the inside portion of the Hellbird. So even though no interruptions or anything. So even though it's one very simple, straightforward boss. And even though if you manage to know what you're doing, then you probably deal with this guy just as fine. But of course you do need to watch out though. Because even though if you did not pay attention to those particular attacks like I do here, then you should be able to be fine. So that concludes the right wing. Major damage to the right wing. Don't worry, we regained our balance. Speechless. Kirby's outside. He's going under the ship. So that's the next objective we're going to be doing right here. Is the fact that we need to go into the actual underneath portion of the actual Hellbird ship. So, naturally speaking, is that what makes it so unique by the forms of the Hellbird ship is that not only does this the actual premise of the Hellbird is actually the coolest introduction in the forms of the future Kirby games, including the likes of this game. This stage will make a return by the forms of the battle stage, by the forms of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Kirby's entered from the underneath the ship. The bottom's weak. The wind is too strong. It's too cold. I'm afraid of heights. No worry. No way I'm going. You chickens, bugger! Nobody calls me chicken. Well, I just usually say that because of the forms of the reference to Back to the Future Part 2. But in forms of, you know, Marty McFly and Doc Brown and all that stuff. I really enjoy the Back to the Future trilogy now, because even then I do enjoy them for the most part. But anyways, though, let's go ahead and just fight for the wind and enter this door right there, because I don't think there's any secrets beyond all the way to the left. Oh, here's the most difficult part. I think the only difficult part about this particular game itself is the switch puzzle, because even then, no, if you want to able to actually proceed to the actual, you know, the Hellbird itself, we're gonna have to basically, we need to be really, really fast before you're able to proceed. So even then, no, plus you do need to actually, act out the correct spotting order with the door switches active. So even then, no, if you actually made this simple mistake, luckily though, you're gonna have to go all the way back to the very beginning, but even then though, that it doesn't take you to the most dumbest parts ever. But even then though, let's go ahead and just walk on forward, and I was too late. I probably should need a, well, it's a good thing I got myself my wing copy ability, because we haven't used that for quite some time. Because even then I can able to use that as projectile to able to actually proceed from it. So even then I totally forgot about that particular technique I've done right there. So let's go ahead and shoot that, and able to continue in the process. And boom, there we go. And I think there's going to be one more door to bypass, and there we go. So that way we can able to actually continue for this portion throughout. So Surprisingly enough though, just like how it does it in the forms of Spring Breeze and especially Dyna Blade, this particular game is going to be super short, just like how it does in the forms of Spring Breeze. Oh, thank God I did not get crushed by this lift, or the elevator I should say, because unlike the ones who Super Smash Bros. Brawl, or Super Smash Brothers Brawl, I should say, is the fact that you instantly get yourselves crushed by the forms of, or crushed by the forms of the actual lift or elevator. But in this game, not so much. You simply have to clip through it. Yeah, but that's what really bugs me for the most part if you're actually going to be using co-op pain. That normally that the elevator or lifts can sometimes able to actually take you down or take you back up if your companion with you decides to able to go ahead and mess up at one point, which even though that does really distract me at one point or another, I have to admit though. But still, it's a only nitpick. But anyways, we got ourselves an extra life back after the forms of the despicable you know, defeat by the forms of these really dangerous mini-boss, and especially noticeable with the forms of this little snacket enemy right there that just kills me instantly. But I digress, let's go ahead and enter the store here, and oh no! Those are my hidden tomatoes! You idiot! You hid those?! They look delicious! And this is the actual area that I could able to actually enter in, because even though because of the health amount, in addition to the extra 1-up back, after, as I mentioned earlier, the enemy can sometimes throws me off, injuring the likes at the second level, which even though that makes it the case. So this is what the, that's why it usually happens when it comes to difficulty anyway. Kirby is heading towards the reactor. If we lose power, we doomed. Relax, the reactor can't be defeated. I hope no reflect lasers hit the reactor. Shh! That's a secret! Well, thank you for that hint there, Bandana Waddle Dee, because that's what the actual character is named, but it forms of the Bandana Waddle Dee, because that's where he usually makes his appearance in the future games, most notably in Kirby's Adventure Wii, Kirby Triple Deluxe, and etc. But I digress. Thanks for the hint there. So basically, this next boss fight in this game, but it forms of the reactor. And this particular boss is very simple if you know what you're doing. Basically, you're gonna have to let the actual blue laser, in this case the actual reflective laser, decide to attack the actual reactor itself. But be very careful though, because much like how it does in Sky Base Zone boss, in the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Master System, or to be more specifically the Game Gear version, because in the Game Gear version, you have to dodge the actual flamethrowers from the actual bottom part of the floor. And then regardless of anything else, then we're pretty much done with this area. The wheelies are abandoning ship. Grr, do something! And I do apologize if I skipped the actual dialogue from the previous text box ago. But even now, no, we got ourselves, I'm assuming one last part of this particular hellboat itself. We are losing power. Engine number 3, engine number 5. Aren't any power left. We can't fly. We've failed. It's over. Attention all crews. Evacuate ship. What? The ship is going down. So yeah, you want that means, folks, is that we got ourselves our self-destruct sequence right there, which we've only got about 3,000 seconds left. By the way, the time limit system, as I mentioned earlier, but in forms of the Revenge of Mennonite game, it feels very, very, not so much stricter, but even then, no, I'm not staying. I'm evacuating. No, it's your turn to evacuate. If at least you say so for that, Mennonite. No, I want to stay with you, sir. Let's try one more time to get Kirby. It's dangerous, but it's worth a try. Oh, you think so, Mennonite? Because after all, I can stop you. Thank you, guys. And in this particular door right there, it just takes you to a whole abundance of maximum tomatoes if you manage to get punishing if you're not careful enough from the previous areas ago. Well, that's a good thing too, because even though after we actually proceed to the next level, unlike how it does it in new forms of Dyna Blades, that usually takes place in a world map. Wait, Kirby? You can't go any further because you have to deal with us. Because after all, we still need to deal with these guys before we're able to proceed. Then the last portion in view forms of the Revenge of Mennonite is by simply, I'm assuming, that we have to defeat Mennonite at the very end. So anyways. So for the most part, this part right there is not too bad. So basically we need to dish out as many Meta Knight slaves as possible before you actually proceed to the actual final portion of the actual point. So Meta Knights, you're on your own. We're evacuating. So anyways, let's get up to the actual lift or the elevator right there, whatever you want to call it, and able to enter this door. And if you think that the actual premise of this boss is coming up, then we need to get our maximum tomato in addition to companions regenerating health. Kirby, this is it. Prepare to die. Thump, 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 thump. And much like how it does in Kirby's Adventure, we still need to actually require to use the Sword Kirby ability before you're able to deal damage on Meta Knight. So, he's pretty easy compared to how it does in the forms of Kirby's Adventure counterparts, except the fact that, well, the reasons why this makes this fight super easy this time is that, first off, as I mentioned earlier, you do have a block button this time. In addition to that, though, he won't deal as many damage compared to how it does in the forms of the previous predecessor. Although, there might be a few times when his attacks can get really devastating, like the whirlwind, for instance. And that can really kill my health for quite significant. But still, it's incredibly easy, though, if you manage to know what you're doing. But even then, that's the actual point of it. If you think the game was over, but it turns out it wasn't, because we got ourselves the final level to deal with. In addition to those kinds of stuff, we got ourselves a wheelie companion, which by the forms of this censored tradition, we have to escape the exploding self-destruction Hellbird. You'll never escape. So this means, in this particular final level right here, is the fact that all we have to do is pretty simple. We need to not only dodge Meta Knight's attacks, but also a bottomless pit and basically pretty much any obstacles. So even though that makes it pretty obvious with that point. So, yeah, he can be he might be kind of difficult at some point sometimes, but luckily though, the wheelie does have a multitude of jumps right there, which is kind of a good thing. And then once you actually approach into the final ramp right about here, yeah, it's right there, then the game is over. So even then, let's watch the actual Hellbird about to be falling down into the water. And if you see on screen and just about right about now, that you immediately realize is that Meta Knight somehow he did survive from the actual explosion or the actual self-destruct sequence, and that's about it. But it forms the Revenge of Meta Knight. It's a pretty cool game, kind of like how it does it in the forms of the Great Cave Offensive. But even though it's only for about a few levels short, but in forms of the other games that we did tackle through Kirby Superstar. But nothing matters anyway though, because even then though, that we've pretty much done with 5 games in a row. So we've got 6th game left, but it forms of how the fact that we're going to be unlocking Milky Way wishes now because of how the fact that, well, you know, that's what we expected it to. So, in this particular staff credit sequence, despite the fact that, as you can see, I really do like the actual cinematic of the forms of Kirby riding the wheelie. So able to see the sunset view, which even then, it does almost reminds me of the Mario Kart DS staff credit sequence, which even then is absolutely cool. But anyways though, in this staff credit sequence also is that it tells you the actual Kirby abilities you can get based off of what enemies you get. So even then, oh, TAC, that's what the actual enemy is. So even then I got wrecked by him. So even then, that's pretty obvious with that one point or another. And that's about it with Revenge of Meta Knight. So it's a pretty awesome looking game. And of course, after when you've completed 5 games in a row, then, as I mentioned earlier, you've unlocked yourselves the 6th and the final main game of Kirby Superstar, aka Kirby's Fun Pack, Milky Way Wishes. So, this could be very interesting, but I'm gonna have to save that for the next video after that. So anyway, so join me next time. Let's play Kirby Superstar, aka Kirby's Fun Pack. It's the fact that we're moving on into the 6th and the final main game in the actual game itself, but it forms of the actual compilation of the game. Milky Way Wishes. So this might be a little bit longer compared to the Great Cave Offensive, but we'll see what happens. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.